It's been 10 years since I set up my business, and during that time there's been some challenges, there's been some emotional highs and lows. It's been a roller coaster of events. But my challenges are very different to my friend Caroline, and I've asked her to tell you her story, and I'd also like her to explain the challenges that she chooses to take on now.
14 years ago, I was living in Hertfordshire and I had just had my first baby. And at that time with my business, my husband and I decided this is the point at which we want to make some life changes. We wanted quality of life with a newborn. So we chose to move down to Devon from Hertfordshire, and life was good. It was only within 2 years when I fell pregnant with my daughter that my illness kicked in. We thought initially it was the pregnancy, but from seeing the doctors and various consultants, they suspected I had ulcerative colitis, which is an immune disorder that affects your internal system, really. Your body thinks you're a virus, so it attacks you. It did come completely out of the blue. And I think you sort of live with it day to day and you think, I can get on top of this. It must be to do with food, it must be to do with lifestyle. And you try everything to get it under control. But you live a day-to-day existence. It was only after my daughter was born, and within 2 weeks of giving birth, I'd lost 2 stone in weight. And that's because of the colitis. Your body cannot absorb nutrition. I was immediately put onto a course of steroids, and then it was just yo-yoing on steroids for 4 years before we got to the point where I couldn't take any more steroids. I was at the max, and that's when I became hospitalised, and we had to make some decisions as to how life would progress. When I look back at how ill I was and how poorly, how much pain I'd lived in with for so long, after surgery it was like a transformation. My surgery was to have the whole of my large intestine removed, which meant I now have a permanent bag. But really it was good because it got me off the medication. All I had to do was wean down off the steroids. And once I'd done that and overcome the osteoarthritis, which is a side effect from steroids, I turned to sport to overcome that. I turned to sport to get fit because I was terribly overweight, very depressed with the way I looked from the steroids. So initially I turned to cycling. So just over a year after surgery, I cycled London to Paris in 24 hours. When you think I couldn't have even gone out to the cinema for a night out, that in just over a year was the biggest transformation. And since then, I've now gone ahead and learnt to swim. My children inspired me to learn to swim. The biggest achievement since I've had my surgery has to be competing in Ironman. 2 years ago, from doing little tiny sprint distance local triathlons, I found more and more people were inspired by what I was doing. And so that made me push harder to show them that they could do things like this. My life's changed since I've had the surgery, partly because I've really become very goal-driven. I know I have to set goals to do things, but also realising what I'm capable of. I've started to push my own personal boundaries, and having other people ask me how I did it and sharing that with them, that's been the big satisfaction for me, knowing that others have taken something from it as well. 10 years ago would have been a couple of years before my surgery. I'd have told myself to have made the decision earlier. There are choices you can make, and I think we always put things off. And I think going back, I'd say to myself, just make that decision, get it done, and get on with your life and make more of it. People are tougher than they think they are. I've proven that to myself, and the more I talk to others, the more I see that in other people. And I think I've learnt that if you just set some targets, they don't have to be big, but actually little step by step you can achieve big things. I've gone from little steps of just learning how to put my face in the water and not panic in water to taking on an Ironman with a 2.4 mile open water swim in 2 years. I couldn't have done that straight off, but I've learnt that step by step you can achieve anything really.